All right, what's up, YouTube? This is a response video to the stream that I just got off of. It's a YouTube stream under the account name of Signs and Wonders. You can check them out. And The stream was called Black Hebrew Israelites, Dr. Joe's Last Show, Faith, right? So Dr. Joe was a Christian guy that was on the stream, and I was kind of confused about what he believed. I think he said that some of the laws are not done away with, or the law is not done away with, but we got to believe in the Messiah, which I believe, right? We got to keep the law and have faith in the Messiah. But then at one point in the stream, I think he said that the law has to be completely done away with, right? The law that we received on Mount Sinai, and we are, that covenant has to be completely done away with, and the new covenant, we have to be completely in the new covenant. Well, you can't separate laws and the covenant, right? The laws are a part of the covenant. And he brought up a scripture, which is Galatians. I'm gonna bring it up on the screen. Galatians 4:25. So let me bring it up. All right, so Galatians 4:25, right? Let me, so he brought out the scripture, right, to prove that we're not in between covenants, because I believe that we are in between covenants. We have the scripture. Well, I'm going to explain my point later on, but we are between covenants, right? We are between the covenant of that was done on Mount Sinai, that we made on Mount Sinai, our ancestors made on Mount Sinai, and the covenant that the Messiah, and the covenant that you could read about in Hebrews 8:8 or Jeremiah, I believe, 31, the new covenant, right, which started with the Messiah, and his death. So, because it specifically says in the scripture that the old covenant is waxing old and ready to be done away with, but it's not done away with yet. So he pulled this scripture to show that, the old covenant, the covenant that was on Mount Sinai, is by us still trying to be under that covenant. We're not going to receive salvation. So let's read the scripture. It says, "For this is the King James Version. It says, for this Agar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is and is in bondage with her children." So he's trying to say that the children of Israel at this time were under the old covenant when the new covenant, has started with the Messiah, with the death of the Messiah, and his blood being poured out, that they were still attaching themselves to the old covenant, and basically he was saying that that's what we're doing today. We are attaching ourselves to the old covenant and not putting ourselves within the new covenant. And I disagree, because if you get the context of what's going on in this verse, We can back it up actually to the whole chapter, because this is verse 25. Let's back it up to the whole chapter, and we can read. And we can get the context of what Paul's saying. As we know, as the scripture says, that Paul's words, letters are kind of hard to understand if you are not well versed in the law. So a lot of these Christians are not well versed in the law, so they don't get what Apostle Paul or Shaul is saying. You know, the context of all this is that the Apostle Paul is in a battle between winning souls, right? And he's battling against his old brothers, the Pharisees, right? And the Pharisees are Old Testament Israelites, non-messianics. They do not believe in the Messiah. They believe only in keeping the covenant. Keeping the law. So, and Shaul or Paul, he believes in the Messiah, right? And he does keep the commandments, right? Now, and those commandments which you are keeping are of the old covenant. So that's the battle that's going on. Shaul, he spread the gospel to these brothers, Israelite brothers in Galatia, and when he left, some Pharisee Old Testament only, Israelites came and were basically corrupting, what he taught them, and telling them that they don't have to believe in the Messiah, because how do we know they was teaching that? Because they were Pharisees. Pharisees don't believe in the Messiah, or they didn't believe that the Messiah was. They didn't believe that Yahusha was the Messiah, right? So, they was teaching them that they still have to keep the law and don't believe in this Yahusha, right? That Paul is speaking of. And we can get that from this understanding. It says, so this is the beginning of chapter 4 in Galatians. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, differeth nothing from a servant, right? Though he be master over all, or Lord over all, but is under tutors and governors until the time appointed of the Father. So Paul is saying here, a heir, right, to his father's inheritance is the same as a servant, because a heir, it has to be under his father's tutelage, or his a heir has to be brought up to a certain age. Then that when he reaches that certain age, then he can receive the inheritance. So he was saying that's just like being a servant, because you have not received the inheritance yet. You still have to work for it. So even so, when we were children, verse 3, even so, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time was come, Almighty, or Elohim, sent forth his son, made of a woman, made under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. So the Messiah came under the law, fulfilled the law, right? And he came to free us of the law, so that we can be now adopted sons of the Father and receive the inheritance. And because verse 6, and because ye are sons, Elohim have sent forth the spirit of his son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. So, because we are his sons now, adopted, he gave us his spirit. Now be able to cry, Abba, Father. Verse 7, wherefore thou art no more a servant, but a son. And if a son, then an heir of Elohim through Mashiach. So now we are heirs. Now we are different from the servant, and now we can receive our inheritance. Verse 8, howbeit then, when ye knew not Elohim, ye did service unto them which by nature are no gods. So now he's talking to Gentiles, right? The Gentiles was doing service to idols which weren't gods. But now, after that ye have known Almighty, now after that ye have known Elohim, or rather are known of Elohim, how turn ye again to the weak and beggarly elements, whereunto ye desire again to be in bondage? Now, also amongst the Israelites that were in Galatia, you had Gentiles who wanted to get in on the gospel. So, you know, just like what Paul and the apostles were saying before, when these Gentiles come in, what are we going to make them keep the laws that we couldn't keep ourselves? So, and then they wind up, did they say no? They don't have to keep no law. They just got to have faith in the Messiah. They didn't say that. They came up with about 4 or 5 laws for the Gentiles to observe. So they did give them some laws. So in those laws that they gave the Gentiles were of the old covenant. So how can you say that we don't have to observe anything in the old covenant when the laws that they gave the Gentiles were of the old covenant? Anyway, ye observe days and months and times and years. I am afraid of you, lest I have bestowed upon you labor in vain. Lest I have bestowed upon you labor in vain. So he's basically saying, like all this stuff I taught you, like, you're just forgetting it. You're letting these other people come. And when I say other people, Pharisees come, and telling you have to be under the law, only the law only, because they didn't believe in the Messiah. They didn't believe in a Mashiach. So they was trying to make them under the law only. And he's like, these things are not going to get you into the kingdom. We have to receive a Mashiach. He's the only way that we can receive this inheritance, because he took on the law and walked it out perfectly. So we have to attach ourselves onto him. Brethren, I beseech you, be as I am, for I am as ye are. Ye have not injured me at all. Ye know how through infirmities of the flesh I preached the gospel unto you at the first. And my temptation which was in my flesh ye despise not, nor rejected, but received me as an angel of Elohim, even as Mashiach Yahusha. So basically he's saying when he came to them, they was kind of sick, and he was, his appearance wasn't very nice looking. And so he's saying, but even though you despise that, you still received me, as if I was an angel, or if I was the Messiah himself. Verse 15, where is then the blessedness ye spake of? For I bear you record that if it had been possible, ye would have plucked out your own eyes and have given them to me. Am I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? So he's like, you guys are getting angry at me for telling you guys the truth, that guys don't have to that the law is not going to make you it's not going to give you salvation. The law only. Okay. The law only. That's what Paul is stressing. It's the law only. It's not going to give you salvation, because that's what the Pharisees was teaching. The law only, because they didn't believe in the Messiah. They zealously affect you. Who's they? It says they zealously affect you. Who? The Pharisees. But not well. Yea, they would exclude you, that ye might affect them, But it is good to be zealously affected always in a good thing, and not only when I am present with you. My little children, of whom I travail in birth again until Mashiach be formed in you. I desire to be present with you now, and to change my voice, for I stand in doubt of you. All right, let's move on to 21. Now, let's get into what Dr. Joe brought up. This Christian brought up. He was talking about Hagar and Sarah, and how Hagar represents, Mount Sinai covenant, and Sarah represents, New Jerusalem. So we're going to put some understanding of this. Tell me, verse 21, tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do ye not hear the law? Now, when he's saying desire to be under the law, we can read this in context now, because there was Pharisees. When you back up to verse 17, it said they zealously affect you. So he's talking about the Pharisees that were affecting, those who he taught about a Mashiach. The Pharisees were trying to bring them under the law completely without a Mashiach, not, believing in the Mashiach and the law. The Pharisees didn't believe in the Mashiach. So the Pharisees are trying to bring them under the law only without a Mashiach. That's not us today. Us Israelites today, we believe in a Mashiach and still establish the law as Paul said. And even the Messiah said, keep my commandments. He said, if you love me, keep my commandments. So tell me, ye that desire to be under the law, do ye not hear the law? For it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondmaid and the other by a free woman. All right, so we know Abraham had Isaac and Ishmael. Ishmael was by the bondmaid and Isaac was by the free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman, which is Ishmael, was born after the flesh. But he of the free woman was by the promise, which is Isaac. Which things are an allegory? For these are the two covenants, the one from Mount Sinai, which is the bondwoman, Hagar, and Ishmael, which gingereth to bondage, which is Hagar. For this Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is, and is bondage with her children, and is in bondage with her children. But Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. So he's saying that Hagar, when you go back to verse 25, it says that Hagar is Mount Sinai in Arabia, and answereth to Jerusalem, which now is, and is in bondage with her children. So basically, you have the Israelites at this time, like the Pharisees, who are in Jerusalem, physical Jerusalem, and they are putting themselves in bondage by trying to keep the covenant, the laws in the covenant only, without accepting the Messiah. That's not what we are today. We believe in the Messiah, and we establish the law like we're supposed to. Faith without works is dead. So, but But Paul is saying, we have to be like Sarah, who is of the New Jerusalem. So in 26, when it says, but Jerusalem, which is above, is free, which is the mother of us all. So the New Jerusalem is going to come down from heaven, right? Like it says in Revelations. So that New Jerusalem is representative of Sarah. And how do we attain that? We attain that through belief in the Messiah and keeping the commandments. Not what the Pharisees was doing here and what Paul was talking about here with the Pharisees trying to make the people keep the commandments only and reject the Messiah. For it is written, rejoice, thou brethren, that bearest not, break forth and cry, thou that travailest not, for the desolate has many more children than she which has an husband. So let me read that again. For it is written, rejoice, thou brethren, that beareth not, break forth and cry, thou that travaileth not, for the desolate has many more children than she which has an husband. Now we, brethren, as Isaac was. Oh, now we, brethren, as Isaac was, are the children of promise, right? Because we believe in the Messiah, right? And keep the commandments, not just believe in the Messiah only. But as then he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the, but he that was born after the flesh persecuted him that was born after the spirit, even so it is now. So the brethren of the flesh, which was the Pharisees, persecuted he that was born after the spirit, which is Mashiach. Nevertheless, verse 30, nevertheless, what saith the scripture? Cast out the bondwoman and her son. So those, they will be casted out. Those Pharisee Israelites who are keeping the commandments and law only, rejecting the Messiah, they're going to be cast out. So it said, cast out the bondwoman and her son, for the son of the bondwoman shall not be heirs with the son of the free woman. Okay, the son of the free woman is heirs because they believe in the Mashiach and keep the commandments. So then, brethren, we are not children of the bondwoman, which is the representative of the Pharisees who keep the law and don't believe in the Mashiach. They keep the law only, but of the free, which is those who believe in the Mashiach and keep the law. So that's the understanding. Let me take this screen off. So basically that's the understanding of this breakdown. That's the breakdown of Galatians 4, and just shining light on what, and some clarification and give them some understanding. Hopefully Dr. Joe watches this, and those who was tuning into that stream, I hope they watch this and get some understanding, and hopefully Joe gets some understanding of this, and if he has anything to say, some type of rebuttal to this, I would gladly have a talk with him again. Just, if you're listening to this, Joe, just put it in the comment section or email me at HebrewIsraelite@gmail.com, and we can do a show talking about this. All right. So peace. Y'all be good. Shalom.